Hi there! Welcome back to my channel. My name is Leah Honiball and this is part 2 of part 1 that I presented last week, which I will link down below. So in part 1, I discussed all my past eating history. Video was long, informative. We're not going to do that today. Today, I'm just going to wrap up my eating, recap of what diets I tried, what worked from them, what didn't, and how I'm eating now, with a fun little recipe at the end for you guys to try, one of my favorite things that I make. So stay tuned right till the end. So the first dietary change I made to help my skin, to help my hormones with my PCOS, was quit dairy and gluten. Personally, for myself and from my friends who have PCOS, they found that dairy is the biggest trigger because it is fairly inflammatory. Basically, especially in North America, our cows are pumped with a lot of hormones, and so when we ingest their byproduct, either from non-organic meat and especially dairy, we pretty much consume those hormones that they were pumped with, so it's just really not good for our own hormonal balance. So quit dairy, that really helped. Gluten also helped because, again, it can be inflammatory. I know there's like the big fad of gluten-free and whatever. I don't do it for that. I truly do it because it is more inflammatory, and when you have acne, you want to reduce inflammation wherever possible. And I just feel better when I don't eat it, not as full. That's why I just steer clear usually from any wheat or anything like that. And today focus more on gluten-free grains, oats, quinoa, brown rice, things like that. And sweet potato is one of my other favorite carbs. Not a grain, but one of my favorite carbs. So that's the first thing I did, and I've been like that for probably like 10 years now. It's not to say I never eat these things because I love chocolate. So obviously sometimes dark chocolate has milk in it, or M&Ms I love. So I do eat dairy a little in those cases, and gluten if it's like in something that I'm eating at a friend's house or whoever. I'm not going to be picky to that extent, but my personal choices are gluten and dairy free. A lot of people have asked if I was vegetarian before. I am not. I eat meat. I tried being vegan at one point. Didn't give me enough energy. I found I was eating too many carbs, not enough protein, so it wasn't helping my muscle growth and maintenance with my workouts. Following that, what I did was a bulletproof diet by Dave Asprey, and I actually visited his cafe when I went to California a few years ago, and I was in heaven. It was a dream. They had everything you could think of, the best breakfast burritos and these puddings and ice cream. I was really just in love with the place, but not so much with the diet. If you don't know what the bulletproof diet, if you ever heard of the butter coffee idea, so basically the bulletproof diet is kind of like keto, but with a bulletproof coffee in the morning. So if you heard of the butter coffee diet, that's really what it is. You start your day with pretty much a cup of coffee and 1 or 2 tablespoons of butter and 1 or 2 tablespoons of MCT oil. MCT oil is a fat derived from coconut oil, but a specific kind. And then you have 2 meals, and they're just really high fat, very low carbs. So you basically eat proteins, healthy fats, greens, not really any fruit. So of course you're going to look lean because you're starving your body of carbohydrates, so you're going to look pretty depleted of any bloating and water retention, and you're going to look pretty ripped. So you know what, it worked very well. I found I got a lot leaner from it, but it just wasn't sustainable because it was fairly restrictive in what you could and couldn't eat. So that worked for physical appearance, I guess, not much for my skin, I'd say. And it was restrictive because I love fruit. So say bye to smoothie bowls, say bye to ice cream, and starting your day with coffee. I mean, coffee's fine, but also raises your cortisol levels because of the caffeine. So again, that contributes to inflammation. If you want to reduce inflammation, you don't want to be drinking as much caffeine. And also butter, it's a fat, kept me full, but it's not nutritionally dense. So it was kind of just eating fat, which again, lower calories, but just not much variety and enjoyment. So that's why I stopped that. These different diets weren't so much because I was being obsessive or like I was before, like I talked about in my first video. Because after I got over the hump of eating unhealthfully and was with obsessive behaviors, I basically just started to experiment with diet more so to help my skin. So the diet that helped my skin the most was when I ate dairy-free keto. If you don't know what keto is again similar to bulletproof, just super high fat, super low carb, and traditionally you would eat dairy. But again, no wheat or gluten normally because that's higher in carb. But I did a dairy-free version. So when I went dairy-free keto, that meant like no cheese, no yogurt, no milk, no cream, and a lot of keto diets are pretty heavy in like cream cheese and cheeses. That really helped my skin. Just wasn't sustainable for me because I enjoy eating it with my friends, going to the houses, so it was hard to adhere strictly to such a low carb diet. The biggest shift that I could have made in my eating was upping my healthy fats, because I explained before, hormones are made from healthy fats. That helps in their production in your body. So when I did the dairy-free keto, that was a game changer because I was eating so many more healthy fats like avocado, flax, chia, nuts, coconut oil, MCT oil, things like that. And so my skin, it really helped my skin. Like I tried it really strictly for like a month and I saw a huge improvement in my skin. That was a big component. And that's why I try and focus on eating a lot of healthy fats in my regular diet, but I don't restrict myself to that only. So where does that bring me? Well, today I eat a paleo-based diet. What works best for me is plant-based paleo. What's paleo? That's basically eating like our way far back ancestors did, like cavemen, our first humans, I guess. Hunter-gatherer days, you would eat what you found, like berries and nuts and seed and whatever you could hunt and again gather. That's sort of the paleo diet. Today, obviously, there's no need for hunting. You just drive to the grocery store, you get your meat. So it's sort of how it works. It's much easier to do, but I don't strictly call myself paleo because, like I said, I love rice cakes and peanut butter and banana, one of my favorite snacks as of late. And I love sweet potato, and typically those higher carb foods are discouraged in paleo because it's not what a hunter-gatherer would have had. You know, would a hunter-gatherer would have found a rice cake in the forest? Like probably not, you know, definitely not. So I'm paleo-based, but I still leave room in my diet for those foods because I do really enjoy them. Today, I still avoid dairy, still avoid gluten, not to the point that I won't touch it or go near it. If I'm at a friend's house and they make it, I'll have a little portion, but in my personal dietary choices, there's no room for gluten or dairy. Don't eat any refined sugars really. It consists of fruit, vegetables, lean proteins. I don't eat pork, just for preference, I don't like it. A lot of fish, chicken, sometimes grass-fed beef, a lot of healthy fats, nuts, seeds, chia, avocado, and I have unsweetened nut milks as my like dairy, coconut unsweetened yogurt as my dairy, and yeah, that's how we eat today. So thanks for watching this portion of the video. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'm happy to do individual videos in greater depth on those different diets that I tried. And now we're gonna get into the recipe because I'm hungry. Okay, so now for the fun part of my video that I promised you at the beginning, banana chocolate chip muffins. This is like my favorite recipe ever. There's no added sugar except from the dark chocolate chips. It's gluten-free and dairy-free. So let's get started. In my bowl right here, I have mashed bananas and I'm going to add 2 more. There are 2 tricks I learned to put in bananas in a recipe. You can actually squish it in the peel so that when you put it in the bowl, it's already kind of ready to go. And number 2, you can just fling it into the bowl and it peels itself. So that's my second trick. I'm now mashing the bananas, and I really like to use is like this little margarita mint crusher because it works super well. And to the bananas, I'm going to add 1 egg. Boom. A little bit of vanilla extract. A dash of salt, pink Himalayan of course, and I'm gonna mix that all up, continuing to mash my bananas. Added to my banana and egg mixture, I'm gonna add my flour blend. In my flour mixture, it's a combination of coconut, almond, and protein powder. So I think protein powder works really well for flours. It adds protein to the recipe without really adding any carbs. So I used half a cup of protein powder, half a cup of almond flour, half a cup of coconut flour with 1 teaspoon of baking soda and 1 teaspoon of baking powder and a little dash of cinnamon. In gluten-free baking, it's important to remember that ratios are key because the consistency can change without gluten flours. It's really important to stick to the measurements in order to get the perfect muffin. Okay, and the last ingredient to add is 2 tablespoons of melted coconut oil. The last ingredient are chocolate chips. So you can put anywhere from half a cup to 3/4 of a cup. I tend to be quite generous because I love chocolate. And you're gonna go ahead and fold in the chocolate chips. And it's okay if it's a little bit thick like this. They're very moist, don't worry, that's how it's supposed to be. And you're gonna go ahead and huge tablespoon scoop full, fill your muffin tray. I love these silicone muffin liners because they are reusable and they don't stick without any added oil. So these are going in the oven at 350 for about 25 to 30 minutes, depending on your oven, but do the little toothpick test. Put in a toothpick to see if it's done. If it comes out clean, they're good to go. All right, they're done and they smell delicious. So these don't rise that much because, of course, there isn't really rising flour in them, but I promise you they are delicious. Okay, time to taste test my creation. Burning hot. Probably said it just one too many times in my last video, but I just want to say I am not a professional, I'm not a dietitian. This is my experience with these different diets. Being a woman who's had acne issues and hormonal issues with PCOS, what works for me might not necessarily work for you. I also just wanted to add that I know it kind of sounds strict, but there's so many alternatives today that it truly really isn't. And for the past, I guess like 10 years now, 11 years, I found so many creative ways to enjoy this type of eating. And it's not even a diet at this point, if that's even what you would want to call it. It's a lifestyle. And that's the biggest point I can push to you, is whatever food way you're adopting that works for you and gives you the results that you are looking for. It's not a diet, it is a lifestyle, and it doesn't even feel like you're restricting yourself because it's just part of how you live. And there are so many great recipes that I can't wait to share with you that are gonna make this kind of eating super exciting for you.